Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. I am John Ledyard from PewterReport.com. With me is Scott Reynolds from Pewter Report, and we are going to talk quarterbacks today. We're going to talk about all the rumors, all the reports out there. We're even going to talk about Kyler Murray. That's how sick and deranged we are right now, Scott. That's the time of the year that it is. We're going to entertain everything, all the delusions of grandeur. We'll entertain them all on the show today. I'm excited for it, though. It's going to be wild.
It is going to be wild. It's going to be a wild offseason for the Buccaneers, right? Trying to figure out who's going to be the signal caller. 2 quick years of Tom Brady, John. I mean, nobody thought that Tom Brady would come to Tampa. We actually speculated about it, believe it or not, in 2020 on an early January podcast. Didn't rule it out, and then ended up coming to fruition. There's no Tom Brady in this year's free agency class.
Except for maybe perhaps Tom Brady and not in free agency.
That's true. That's
maybe
true. Yeah.
Back to the Bucs. Who knows what's going to happen? Yep. We'll talk about it for sure, though, because there's more legs to that than some of the other rumors that are out there. And let's just put it that way. So we'll discuss all of it, though. If you have questions about the quarterback, today is the Offseason Outlook on Quarterbacks podcast. If you missed last week, we talked defense extensively last week. You can find all the defensive position groups broken down. We looked at current state of the roster at each of those defensive positions. We looked at the likelihood of re-signing many of the free agents and the situations and context surrounding a lot of the free agents that the team has at those position groups. Outside free agents, we looked at a few that made sense, and perhaps most notably draft prospects that might make sense at some of those positions as well. So we tried to be extensive last week. So if you're looking for the defensive versions of this week, go check out last week's shows. But today we get to talk quarterbacks and offense, Scott. And of course, it's all brought to you by our friends over at Celsius. Celsius, powering those active lives every day with essential functional energy. I got the Wildberry here today, the sparkling Wildberry. No sugar in these things, yet unbelievable taste and a crazy variety of flavors, Scott. I don't know how they pulled it off, but they did.
Especially this one. We talk a lot about the fruit flavors, John. And, over the weekend, whether it was orange, whether it was grape. I think last week I had a tropical vibe, which is a very cool flavor as well. It's sparkling star fruit and pineapple. But you know what? I went back to the cola. And yes, I know all the fruit flavors are fantastic, but they nailed it with the cola flavor, John. If you're someone like me who I just drink soft drinks back in the day, not going to name any name brands, but this cola tastes remarkably like some of the major cola brands out there. And it's another great flavor. And what I did was I discovered the variety pack, which is on Amazon. And that way, if you don't know which flavor you like or you want to try, you get a whole bunch of them to try. The variety pack is packed with different flavors. And John, there are a bunch of flavors. Strawberry guava, Fuji apple pear, the Wildberry, and like you said, the great thing is no sugar, no preservatives. That means no crash. You get the energy without the crash. So where can you get some Celsius? Go to PewterReport.com. While you're checking out our stories, we have a new mock draft up on PewterReport.com, the Bucs Monday mailbag, a couple of other stories. You can click on those Celsius banner ads, and they'll take you to find out where you can buy Celsius near you, or just go to Amazon. Use the subscribe and save feature. They'll ship the Celsius right to your house, and you'll save some money.
And appreciate everybody in the chat. Sup, fellas, to Matt. Aloha to Joey. How's everyone doing? G Vegas doing well, because we've got this Tom Brady rumor mill going strong, Scott. We kind of already knew that he was going to, continue to think about things. Obviously, he is retired. Like now, he knows he wants to retire right now. It doesn't mean that it's not like he's uncertain about that. Like, people got to understand, you can know something now, and then something can happen to change your mind about it, especially a major thing like that down the road. He's never been retired from football before. And, it's not like retiring from a normal job, obviously. And so he's got to have the opportunity to think about things and see where he's at. And the Bucs are probably going to let door open for him. There's no rush for Tampa Bay. They've got him under contract for another year. It's not like it's a free agency situation and they're waiting him. Like, he's under contract to the Bucs. If he wants to come back, it's going to be for the Bucs. And so it'll be interesting to see what he decides to do, but there's no bonus on the Bucs to really make any move with Tom Brady in terms of releasing him or anything like that. I'm sure they're going to maybe restructure his contract. He should agree to that so that they they take his base salary down to the minimum and
Right.
that kind of stuff. But other than that, it doesn't seem like they should be in any rush to do anything with Tom Brady. The ball is kind of in his court. The only thing it might do is impact free agency and how they treat other options this offseason, which we'll talk about shortly.
Yeah, and really the biggest date is June 1st, because Tom Brady, should they either put him on the retired reserve list, or if they cut him or trade him, which they're not going to do, he would impact the Bucs in a very negative way from a salary cap standpoint. $32 million would accelerate and hit this year's cap. That's not going to happen. They'll wait until after June 1st, June 2nd. Then they can either put him on the retired reserve list, or, some crazy scenario might pop up where Brady wants to play, but not in Tampa. I don't think that's going to happen, John. I think he's either a Buccaneer or he's retired. But whatever's going to happen to Tom Brady is going to be done on June 2nd, because that allows the Buccaneers to only take an $8 million dead cap hit this year. And they can push $24 million instead of 32, $24 million to next year. And I know that sounds like a lot, John, but as you've said, we've talked about it on the show, you've written about it, the salary cap's expected to make a major jump up next year in 2023. And that would allow the Buccaneers to really kind of absorb some of that $24 million. It's not going to be as painful of a hit as it would be this year. So, why not hang on to the guy and see what transpires right this year? I mean, it might be a situation where he gets the itch again. Maybe he becomes family man Brady for a couple of months. Giselle and the kids are happy. And then as it gets a little closer to training camp, he says, I got that itch, babe. Let me just do one more year. I talked about playing at age 45, and we've had a great offseason, took those vacations you wanted to, babe. Let's just do this. I can't leave the Bucs hanging, Giselle. Come on. Listen, I'm one more year, and then you got me for the next 40 years or so.
We'll see. I don't know. Obviously not being privy to those conversations, we have no idea how it's going to go necessarily, but it'd be an opportunity where they've had some time to think about it and they come to a decision like, oh, maybe this is, maybe one more year is a good answer. We'll see. All I know is this. It's a better percentage chance of happening than a lot of the other things out there, which we'll get to in a second. Leo at the $5 super chat. Many people think he's going to demand a trade to the 49ers, but listen to any single Tampa source, and they all say the same thing. He'd come back to us. This is one of the sillier storylines that have been out there, in my opinion, Scott, for a lot of reasons. Let's not even talk about the 49ers for a second. I know you've probably got some thoughts there too, but there's a couple big reasons why this doesn't make any sense at all. As Florio wrote for Pro Football Talk in his usual drivel, it was just like something like this in this situation, Brady could be pushing the Bucs to release him by retiring. First of all, what in the world? Why would they release the best asset on their team and their most valuable player? Who releases that player? That doesn't make any sense at all. If they even wanted to move on from him, it would be to trade him. Plus, the dead cap implications of releasing him would be absolutely devastating. So not even an option. So just a total misunderstanding of the cap by Florio and just basic asset handlement in the NFL, which was bizarre. But then you have the whole scenario. Why would he retire if he wanted to go to another team? All that does is kill leverage and traction for anything to happen. If you're retired, there's no incentive for anybody to come get you. And even if you unretire, there's still not much incentive, or not as much as there could have been. If you had left the door open and said, maybe I'll play 2 more years, then more teams are knocking down the door. Now you've retired and you've essentially hurt your marketability as a trade asset. So it makes even the strategy that Florio is suggesting he takes here would make absolutely no sense if he wanted to go to another team. The whole thing is totally bizarre. There's been this manufactured Tampa Bay drama that just never happened. This is the best offense in football, and they almost certainly are enjoying the Lombardi Trophy today if they are fully healthy. Looking at how the other teams in the field played out, I just really feel that way. They weren't healthy. They weren't close to healthy, and that's a big part of getting there. But Brady's not an idiot. He knows that. He knows he just had a career year at 44 in this offense. If he came back, he knows what would be on the table for him. It's just right now, it's just time to step away. That's it.
Yeah, I think too that you have to look at this from a timetable standpoint. Let's go down the conspiracy road, right? If Brady were to be traded or released or whatever, not play in Tampa, right? That would take place June 2nd. Brady was already fretting coming to Tampa Bay. Now, granted, it was a COVID year, but in February of 2020 or in March and having to learn this offense, right? And his new teammates. And he just felt that pressure being under the gun. And what did he say? Like, I've already missed, 1,000 reps of OTAs and mini camps, et cetera. Okay. So he gets traded to another team. Let's say the 49ers, sure, whatever. Not going to happen. But if that's the case, right, he's got to learn a new offense and new teammates in June.
Yeah.
Do you think he wants to do that? Absolutely not. No. The only scenario where it could even make sense is going to the Raiders because they've got Josh McDaniels who will have that familiarity with Brady. Brady doesn't want to move his family to Las Vegas. Absolutely not. He wanted to play in the Eastern time zone because his son Jack lives in New York with his mom, Bridget Moynihan. Okay.
Right.
So that's one aspect. Number two, the Raiders were 9-8 last year. They barely got in the playoffs. They didn't do much, right? So
you're going to take that over a team you already know and dominated with in the Bucs?
Yeah, I mean, if Brady's going to come back, John,
you want to play in the AFC West?
Yeah, with Herbert and Patrick Mahomes,
Herbert, and maybe Aaron Rodgers.
No,
all right,
absolutely
buddy.
Not. No, and the thing too is the Buccaneers aren't going to trade him to the 49ers, not for Jimmy Garoppolo. Jason Light would be crucified for that by me, by you, by everybody.
Right.
So that's not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I could see, listen, if you want to play Madden football, if you want to do fantasy football trades, you could say Brady for Carr and the upside. Okay, whatever. That's not going to happen because Brady's not going to want to go to Vegas. And if he's going to come back, John, I'm with you. He wants to come back to win a championship. Because if he's going to sell Giselle on it, it's going to be, listen, babe, I have a legitimate shot at getting ring number 8 if I come back. That's not happening in Las Vegas. It probably isn't happening because of the timetable in San Francisco.
Other sidebar to the San Francisco thing, because that's the one I've seen the most, I don't know if traction's noise around. Kyle Shanahan's offense. First of all, unlike Brady's not played anything like it. And some people said that about Arians. That wasn't completely true. But Kyle Shanahan's offense would be extremely different for Brady. Not saying he couldn't do it, but he's 44. And here's the other part. Matt Ryan, one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league, has said it took him a full year playing in Kyle Shanahan's offense because the verbiage is so intense in Kyle Shanahan's offense, like mentally to be able to handle it. It took him that long to be able to feel like he could. Remember, he had that first season with Shanahan was not good for Ryan. Then he had the MVP season the next year. So it just took him that long. So that's what you're basically, that's a ton of timetable coming in late too. And then trying to learn that verbiage. Plus, the 49ers, what are they giving up for Tom Brady? They just traded like their whole franchise, next couple picks and all that stuff for Trey Lance.
Right.
That's your guy. Like, you're
so
going to delay that by another year or two. Like,
I don't see it. So,
whole thing's crazy.
For that reason, it's like, I think we can rule out the Derek Carr trade.
We can rule that out on its own legs too, right? Because I really think they're going to keep him. I really think that's a big part of McDaniels being there. They're going to give this a shot for a year. They know that they can be a decent team this year. Obviously, they're not going to win the Super Bowl or anything. Well, we would have said that on the Bengals last year too. Let's just, I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl or anything like that or contend for that. But I do think this is a good year. McDaniel's coming in. He's going to have he's going to have, the Raiders need stability bad. He knows he's got some breathing room. And he's going to come in. He's going to try out the Carr thing. If it works, great, awesome. If not, he's out of there, and they're going into the quarterback class. It's a better quarterback class. Right now, they just don't have a ton of options, and they're finding somebody in the outside doesn't make sense. Carr can do this, and I think McDaniels knows that. And I really do think they're going to work together this year. And so I don't see the Carr thing happening either. He's always a $5.
Here's the thing: if he trades Derek Carr, who's the quarterback? Okay, that means the Raiders have to draft a quarterback this year and start that rookie quarterback. Last time Josh McDaniels did that, right? But last time Josh McDaniels did that, didn't work out so well in Denver, did it? Right, with Tim Tebow.
No, Tim Tebow wasn't good. I remember him beating the Steelers. That's all I remember. I blacked out everything since then for the next 2 years. I don't remember anything.
Tim Tebow, Steeler killer quarterback. But the thing is rookie quarterbacks typically are what? Coach killers, right? That usually is the case. I mean, I don't think it's going to be that way in New England with Bill Belichick and Mac Jones per se. But I mean, Lovie Smith saw that here with Jameis Winston. Hell, Jameis Winston killed 2 coaches in Lovie Smith and Dirk Cutter. So that's not the ideal way to go. I'm with you, John. I think he gives Derek Carr a shot in his system to see if he can develop him. It's always better to work with what you have at the quarterback position rather than the unknown, unless the unknown is Tom Brady, because then that's an upgrade from Jameis Winston to Tom Brady for sure. Hezo 8813, appreciate the $5 super chat. Bucs sent an investigator to dig deep into Deshaun Watson. John, I think you'll agree with me. Bucs aren't the only team that has done their due diligence on Deshaun Watson, but to take it away, John. What do you see happening there?
It's just nothing's. Everybody's going to dig. Everybody's going to dig because it's that time of the year. They can do that now. So you want to see what is the truth to these things. Plus, especially teams that haven't dug it all yet. I mean, obviously the Bucs would be one of those teams that no reason for them to have done any work here really yet. So now that the offseason's over, they're going to dig into it. They're going to look, obviously. They're going to find the same things that have deterred everybody else from trading for him right now. The fact that the Texans want 3 firsts as a starting point for Deshaun Watson. And frankly, there's just nobody in their right mind that's going to give up 3 firsts for a guy who could be in jail. Like, we just don't have any idea what the path is ahead for Deshaun Watson. We don't know what's going to happen to him. So there's just nothing's going to happen. There's nothing. If he wanted to trade and there were no legal situations, character situations surrounding him, of course, it would be at the top of the list for the Bucs. But because there are, and they're not looking like they're going to go away anytime soon, it just kind of is what it is, Scott. There's just nobody's touching him until we get more resolution, and it doesn't seem like anything is really on the horizon in terms of being cleared up there. So we're in for probably a long haul here with Deshaun Watson.
Yep, I agree. What other quarterback should we address, John?
Well, we need to talk about. Let's talk Kyler Murray, and then we'll move to a more serious one in Russell Wilson. Okay. You and I kind of see it similarly, maybe a little bit, but Kyler Murray, the rumors have been out there, and it was actually kind of confirmed. Chris Mortensen said yesterday, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, that basically Kyler Murray is throwing a fit. That's my words. Don't quote Mort on that, but that's basically what's happening. I mean, Kyler Murray feels like he was scapegoated, was the word that was used for the playoff loss to the Rams. It just kills me. Like, how your team threw you under the bus? Like, they wanted to lose the game? Like, what are you talking about? Your team hasn't thrown you under the bus at all. Nobody said anything negative about
his horrible own performance.
He was bad. Yeah, the O-line was bad. Like, but he was terrible. Like,
he was.
This is the big concern with Kyler, man. When there's adversity, period, he sulks and doesn't lead, and that's where teams were concerned with him coming out of the draft. Frankly, some of that buzz got out there, but it quickly kind of got buried once people realized he was going to go number 1. It just kind of became, what could he be? And obviously, he's an incredible talent, but that part matters at quarterback for sure, and it can turn off teammates at quarterback for sure. So we're just going to have to see how it proceeds. But
he's really young too. He's 24 years old.
Yeah, he is young, and I don't think he's going to get traded, and I don't think it would be to the Bucs even if he did get traded. Do not think that one would be in line with the Tampa Bay is looking for. So don't see that one.
It really, John, the thing is when you look at Kyler Murray, right? And you look at the fact that this guy is 5'10". He's a prototype of what Bruce Arians wants at the quarterback position, right? I mean, you think of let's just go through the list real quick, right? Peyton Manning, 5'10". Ben Roethlisberger, also 5'10". Carson Palmer was 5'10". Tom Brady, even 5'10", his most recent quarterback. Then you've got Andrew Luck, also 5'10".
Jameis Winston was 5'10".
Jameis Winston was 5'10". So you have all these 5'10" quarterbacks, these pocket passers with enough arm strength, push ball down the field, good pocket presence. That's Kyler Murray to a T, right? Kyler Murray's 5'10", 207. And of course, I'm being facetious here. I mean, all these quarterbacks that routed off were 6'4" or taller. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Bruce Arians has a type at the quarterback position, and we can segue into Russell Wilson, who is also 5'10", in just a second. But I just don't see Kyler Murray, who makes a lot of his plays outside of structure, outside of the pocket, being a good fit, because the problem with Kyler Murray is he does take some sacks. He's got the ability to scramble. That is not what Bruce Arians cares about. Bruce Arians is a pocket passer all the way in terms of the type of quarterback he likes. So he doesn't really care about the mobility. He likes pocket mobility. Move around in the pocket like Brady does. Sidestep the rush, stay in the pocket, and throw the ball. There's a big reason why Jameis Winston got sacked 47 times, John, and then Tom Brady gets sacked about 25 times less in each of his years in Tampa. The reason is because Jameis accounted for about 20 of those sacks by leaving the pocket and running into a pass rusher, and really giving his tackles, whether it's DeMar Dotson or Donovan Smith, fits. Yeah. And I think Kyler Murray is a sack waiting to happen in this offense.
Yeah, it'd be very difficult. It's difficult to protect for him because he plays so deep in the pocket. He can make it work. I mean, he invited pressure at a league high rate and was really good for most of the regular season, but it typically tends to catch up with you. We've already seen it a couple times with Mahomes in some games, although obviously he was good enough to overcome it and get to 4 championship games and win a Super Bowl. So, but if there's one knock on Mahomes, we're being nitpicky, it would be that. And I think also with Kyler, he's just not quite as consistent in terms of his accuracy. It's always been kind of the same thing. He has the ability to make every throw. There's no doubt. You talk about arm strength traits that Arians loves are definitely there, but the rest, no. And he's still developing too. Like, you're not really sure what Kyler Murray's going to be honest, yet. He's had some moments where he looks like a league MVP and they never sustain. And I think that's where there would be concern with bringing him into a situation like this. Yeah. On top of the fact that I don't think Arizona would trade him at all. Like now, what other options they have? There's no recourse.
Bucs fans, you got to understand, right? Just because the Buccaneers may want a quarterback or may need a quarterback from another team does not mean that team wants to or is in position to trade away that guy, because who replaces Kyler Murray at quarterback? The Cardinals drafted Josh Rosen in the top 10. They traded him away the next year to draft another quarterback, number 1 overall. Okay, so this is a franchise that has already spent a couple of first-round draft picks, only has one guy to show for it. They're not going to want to deal Kyler Murray away, because then they got to replace him with yet another rookie quarterback. And this year's class is not good, John. It just isn't.
Yeah, right. And Seattle, they're the one that's interesting to me, because if Seattle were smart, in my opinion, they'd look at the 49ers, the Rams, and even the Cardinals to a degree, and they'd say, we're just not ready.
Like, they're going nowhere fast, right?
I mean, look at their defense. They're overpaying Jamal Adams, who's not very good, and they just don't have many pieces. They don't have corners. Bobby Wagner's on his way out. Big drop off this year and play from him. They don't have pass rushers. Like, what are you going to get for like this team? Like, where are they going to go? What's their ceiling next year? Like, oh man, it's just bad. Like, but they don't see it that way necessarily right now from what it sounds like. And maybe the offseason progresses, we learn something different. But man, I mean, Russell Wilson, if I'm Seattle, I'm not saying to the Bucs, I'm just saying if I'm Seattle, I'm not Green Bay, and Green Bay, they know they got a team that could win, and so they're not. If they traded Aaron Rodgers, they wouldn't necessarily be looking to trade him within the conference. If I'm Seattle, I don't really care. I'm trading Russell Wilson for the best available package. This guy needs a new voice. He needs a new framework. He needs new everything. And if you're going to keep Pete Carroll, which I think is a mistake, but if they're going to keep him, then they got to try something else different. Doesn't seem like they're going to do that. Let's say hypothetically they were, and Russell Wilson was available. He's also said he wants to finish his career in Seattle, so it's not just putting the Seahawks on this. Like, it doesn't seem like either of them realize the problem that the other has with each other. They're just staying in this toxic relationship, and I don't think it's a good idea. But if he were available, again, I don't think that he is. But if he were, I do think the Bucs would pull the trigger and try to make a trade for him, and I think that they would compete with the best offers out there. I do think there's some limitations that fit, but his ability to throw the deep ball, his ability to lead the team, I think, would be things that would be appealing to them. And here's the biggest part, the most important part. There is like almost no chance that a better option becomes available than Russell Wilson in the next few years. And although he may not be available, if he were to be available, they would have to look at it realistically and be like, what better option is going to present itself to us? Yes, there's some limitations. He doesn't read out middle of the field. He doesn't take checkdowns like he should. He will take some sacks. That has gotten better for him, but he still will take some sacks at times. He also creates outside of structure, and he creates big plays outside of structure a lot. He throws the ball down the field better than any quarterback in the league. One of the best vertical passers of all time.
Yes.
And
I think that would appeal to Arians.
And low turnovers for the most part, most of the time.
Well, and he already has a rapport with Mike Evans from the Pro Bowl last couple times they've played together. So
he's been around. You know what you're getting.
He's won a Super Bowl. He's been in a couple Super Bowls, right?
Yeah, so, he's won a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah. So he's a winner. Yeah. I do think that some of the problems with Kyler Murray running into sacks would happen with Russell Wilson. I agree with you there, John. At the same time, Russell Wilson is a pocket passer. He's not a scrambler. He is a pocket passer. It's just that because of his height, he's 5'10". There are times when you got these big defensive linemen and they stick their hands up, he literally has to get out of structure, get out of the pocket so he can see to throw downfield, right? And even Drew Brees did that. Drew Brees moved around the pocket, stepped up at 6 foot tall to be able to see, right? You don't have that problem necessarily when you're Ben Roethlisberger, Carson Palmer, Tom Brady, even Jameis Winston. So there is the height thing that I think Arians would have to kind of like begrudgingly overcome. The other thing too is very much like Winston. Russell Wilson throws outside the hashes very well. A lot of his passes to Tyler Lockett, to DK Metcalf, etc. He likes to attack the sidelines. That's not the area where Arians wants to attack. That's why Chris Godwin is the number one wide receiver in Tampa Bay, to work the middle of the field. And that's not to say the rest can't do that. It's just the way those offenses in Seattle were structured, he didn't probe and test the middle of the field as much as he would be asked to do in Tampa. So I'm not saying he couldn't do it. It's just his downfield strikes are down the sidelines, to the big play wide receivers he had. Not so much down the middle. It's not like he hasn't thrown the deep post. Not like he hasn't,
But you're right.
taken a vertical shot down the middle.
Everybody would play too high against the Bucs all day.
Yes.
Every day.
And how would he respond to that? That's the thing. Yeah.
Right. Because he has not shown the ability to take advantage of middle of the field open as consistently as Brady obviously did and dominated with last year.
We're talking about possibly trading Brady to the 49ers. That's not going to happen because the Bucs are playing the 49ers, right? Again, Jason Light, Bruce Andrews, there's no way, the Glazers, there's no way they would want to have to face Tom Brady in a different colored uniform this year. And I think the same thing. The Packers aren't going to be trading Aaron Rodgers to Tampa Bay. If they're going to trade him, it's going to be to Denver outside of the conference. They don't want to have to face, and again, the Packers are a team the Bucs will play this year. They don't want to sit there and face Aaron Rodgers, have Jordan Love get killed by Aaron Rodgers and red and pewter. They don't want that. Then the same thing with Russell Wilson. I think that wouldn't be the end all be all, because you have to look at it and weigh, like you were saying.
Yeah.
If it's time to hit the reset button, then you do that. But
you do it for the best offer, though. And are the Bucs going to be the best offer if Russell Wilson's available?
Yeah.
I mean, the Broncos are going to have a higher pick. They're going to offer better. The Broncos are going to offer, because if Rodgers ain't going anywhere, the Broncos are desperate.
John, another great point by you, right? Because you're looking at a first-round pick the Tampa Bay would offer would be the 27th. It's almost a second-round pick. And if you're going to trade Russell Wilson to Tampa Bay next year, right?
Yeah. Right.
Or I should say this year.
Yeah.
Then next year's number one probably going to be 25 or higher.
Right.
So it's almost going to be the same thing. So I think you're right. When teams want first-round draft picks for quarterbacks, they want really crappy teams that are going to have top 10 draft picks. That's where the real value is. And again, I don't see that being a great fit with Russell Wilson and the Seahawks.
Right. No, for sure. Let's talk about this as we wrap up quarterback. Scott, you and I kind of see this situation differently right now. Not drastically differently, but just like you have more questions than I do maybe about it. But I think we both agree that, as Terrence writes here, Scott, I know you wrote a little bit about it in the Fab Five. Do you guys have any more info about the supposed rift between Brady and the Bucs that the national media is reporting? And I know that both of us, from what I've talking to you, we both believe that Brady's retirement was because it was time.
Family driven.
Was family driven, all those things.
Yeah.
The only question is then for you have some questions. Was there something to like was there some Brady Arians tension where I don't really have those questions as much as you do?
Yeah. I'll say this, I appreciate Terrence's question here. And I wouldn't even say national media is reporting. I would say national media is speculating.
Right.
Because
that's an important distinction.
It's a very important distinction. And even in reading the SR's Fab Five, I didn't really even come to some conclusions. True. I just presented what was being said, and then I asked some questions because I don't know. Part of the problem with this COVID era, I'm just being honest with you guys, is not being in the building. Okay. Not that I would pull Tom Brady aside and get the inside scoop. Brady didn't do that to anybody. But I'm just saying, I could ask around. I would have some more insight with some of the players talking, and not just me, you, John, Rick Stroud, Greg Allman, Jenna Lane, et cetera. We would have a lot more ability to kind of get some more information to see if there was anything there. I've heard some things. I don't feel comfortable even saying it or reporting it because I just don't know. I can't get what I've heard corroborated. Yeah. So it's speculation at this point in time. At the same time, too, understand Tom Brady, Bruce Arians, Jason Light, Mike Evans, none of these guys liked how the season ended. They didn't like how they played in the first half of that game. They didn't like losing to the Rams at home, right? They suffered a loss that ended their season abruptly. And had they gotten past the Rams, they would have hosted the NFC Championship game against the 49ers and probably felt really good about that matchup. So the feelings, if there was any type of rift or whatever, might not have even been a rift. It might have just been raw emotion of losing. And, and so I don't know if there is going to be anything, to that supposed rift or however it's phrased, it'll come out. All right. And maybe even Brady addresses that a little bit in the Man in the Arena episode in April, if there was anything there. Because I'll tell you what, the Man in the Arena episodes, John, had been very revealing. He even talked about how he became kind of disenchanted. That's my word, not his, with New England. He's winning Super Bowls, but just that dark cloud of having to win the Patriot way up there, football was not fun. It's one thing to hear Gronk say football wasn't fun for me anymore, I almost retired. But to hear Brady actually kind of verbalize that was a bit eye-opening too. And you could see why he wanted out of New England and to come to Tampa, which was a breath of fresh air for him from a coaching standpoint, a weather standpoint, a fresh start, new challenge, etc.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that part. I think that does matter to Brady. But having said that, if New England, if they were still balling and having success, and he didn't want to retire, like if he were like, I want to keep playing and we're having like unprecedented success, our offense is still great. They weren't. That's the reality of the situation. The defense was really good. Their offense was not great, period, in New England. And didn't have much hope of getting better. There was no upside players on that
Julian
roster.
Edelman and nobody else.
Yeah, what was left to throw. Right. So he saw the writing on the wall there. He knew this was going to be a rebuild. So that was part of it, and along with the other stuff. Like if it had just been the other stuff, okay, then I don't think he leaves New England. I think if he's still like, okay, this annoys me about the leadership and structure, and I don't have as much say here as I'd like, but we have this super talented team and we could probably win a Super Bowl, maybe compete for a couple in the next 2 or 3 years, he would have stayed like he did before. Like he did before when it was true the year they lost to the Eagles in the Super Bowl. That was the episode he was talking about that. Yeah. He would have stayed if that would have been the case, just like he did then. Like he didn't try and force his way out. There was no drama. Like he knew they could win and that's what mattered to him. He knows the Bucs can win. He's not an idiot. He knows with Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, or one or both, with Tristan Wirfs healthy, with the defense not playing their first snaps of the season together on the season together on the field in that game against the Rams. This is probably a team that wins the Super Bowl. This is a team that's back in the Super Bowl. That's the potential they had. They're number one offense in the NFL in most categories, number one, number two, depending on what you look at in most categories, despite playing the hardest schedule. Second hardest, the Jets play the hardest schedule for passing offenses in the NFL last season. And despite the injuries that they had, that's still the production they put up in Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich's offense with Tom Brady's input, which they have said, and he has said they have taken that input. They brought in players that he wanted to bring in. He's gotten the control that he wanted. He's gotten the say in the game plans that he's wanted. They've worked with him to make this thing what it is. And no question that this was one of the best, if not the best offense in the NFL this season, even in a year where offenses were up and down. The Bucs were about as consistent as it could get in games that they weren't totally decimated by injury in the middle of a la the Saints game that they got shut out. Other than that game, like this was the best offensive football throughout the season. It would have been in the playoffs. Unfortunately, they ran into the matchup that was the worst for them at the worst possible time. And that's part of it. That's getting to a Super Bowl. And Brady says it all the time. He knows like there's some luck involved in getting to a Super Bowl. Like there's just no question. He said it. Nobody knows more about that than him. He gets 200 or 199th pick and he ends up being the greatest quarterback of all time. There's some luck involved in that. He has never been so arrogant as to assume that is
Tom Brady is not Tom Brady without Adam Vinatieri and Stephen Gostkowski. I mean, I think he knows that. He
100% knows that it's a team sport, an organization
Patriots,
sport.
With Brady at the court, with the greatest quarterback of all time, the Patriots' biggest Super Bowl victory margin of error was 10 points, beating the Rams 13-3. Every other game came down to one score, 4 points or less.
And games like that, it could be a play here, a play there, and Brady knows it. Like it's not necessarily
Brady's only blowout in the Super Bowl came in Tampa Bay, 31-9. Right? I mean, it was, and he played a big part in that. He was a Super Bowl MVP, 3 first-half touchdowns, helped build that lead. But that's the thing. It's like Brady knows that it's tough. It's tough to win a Super Bowl because none of those Super Bowls in New England were as easy as the one in Tampa Bay was. And that was still against the defending Super Bowl champs.
Right. People talk about, he's pissed at Todd Bowles' last call of the game that lost him the game. We're all pissed at that. Like everybody's pissed at it. You think he gets home at night and likes every call in the game that was ever No, like there's calls he's gonna hate. And there's calls that they probably Leftwich and Arians and Bowles go home and they hate. Like, that's part of it, but it's a team sport. You don't get divided over a call. You're the greatest quarterback of all time. You've been around 22 years. You know that better than anybody. It's not going to.
He wasn't happy
those little things.
with the offensive performance in the first half.
Of course.
Byron Leftwich wasn't. Bruce Arians wasn't. Mike Evans wasn't. Ryan Jensen wasn't. Nobody liked what happened in that Rams game. Not just the last play with Todd Bowles, but on the offensive side. They were down 27-3.
Yeah. And they know they were lucky to get back in the game because the Rams fumbled. And I know the Bucs forced one or two, but some of those were just ridiculous play. You know, it was lucky. Yeah, there was some luck and they took advantage eventually, but they know that. Yeah, they know they did not play as well as they should have, and I think that aided everybody. Matt says, did anyone else on White's tweet that he deleted last night? Yes, Evan White last night after the Super Bowl tweeted, where the Super Bowl at next year? I'm about to slide to their team with 2 laughing emojis. So I actually kind of was upset about this last night, and I'm glad that today I didn't tweet about it or anything, but I actually thought this was incredibly stupid tweet last night. But then I reread it today, and I realized he's talking about the team plays at like whoever is the host city of the Super Bowl has gotten in the last 2 Super Bowls and won the last 2 Super Bowls. So that's what he's talking about in this situation. And that's made me rephrase a little bit. First, he was like, man, I'm watching these guys celebrate the Super Bowl. You know, I want to just go to wherever, you know, whoever won the Super Bowl to their spot. That's not what he's talking about necessarily in this situation. He's saying that the location of the Super Bowl, wherever it is next year, has a pretty high chance at winning the Super Bowl since it's happened the last 2 years. So I'm trying to go to the location. I get what he's trying to do as a joke, but it's still probably not that smart of a tweet. And this guy's supposed to be the captain. Like, you know, it's just, I think it was dumb, but it's not as big a deal. Last night I was like, this guy, are you kidding me, dude? Like, but now I see the joke he was trying to make. I thought he was just trying to get to another team that he thought had a better chance to win. And now I see the joke he was trying to make, and it, just probably dumb more than anything else. But yeah, you'd still hope maybe it'd be a little bit better than this. Scotch has lost his power, by the way, in his home. So I'm running solo here. Good question here from RMOB Nation. What are you going to get a 6th round pick? What are you going to get a 6th round pick for Trask? Yeah, I don't think trading Trask is really on the table unless the team, if they were trading for a star quarterback, and the team they were trading to desired Trask back. Could be a situation in Seattle, for example, if something did materialize. But I think all this really just brings us back to, and yes, I don't know what you're not going to trade Trask for a pick. You're going to trade him as part of a package if you're the Bucs. I think what all this brings us back to is at the end of the day, you look at some of these options that are out there. I know Scott wants to talk about one more maybe that could be on the table for the Bucs when he gets back in here. But honestly, Tom Brady might be the more likely option than any of the guys we've talked about so far, than Carr and Kyler and Rodgers and even Wilson. Like, that could be the reality, that him coming back could be the most likely option. And so at what point do you decide to bank on that if you're the Bucs? You don't want to bank on it, obviously. You'd love to have more options if you're the Bucs, but you don't this offseason. That's the reality. You don't have more better options anyway. So do you go all out for a Kirk Cousins type of quarterback, who it sounds like the Vikings are going to keep, which I did not expect, but here we are. And then miss out potentially on Brady saying, hey, I want to come back. I don't think you do. This is why this next part is crucial. When Scott's back here, we're going to talk about a guy that Scott believes could be an option, and neither of us really want to be an option for the Bucs quarterback. But one of the most important parts of this whole thing is that the Bucs do not go average or below average at quarterback. It is better to be bad at quarterback than to be average or below average at quarterback at a free agency or trade decision this offseason. Neither average or below average are going to get you where you're trying to go. They're only going to keep you from getting there in 2023 and 2024 when you have a real shot to get there. But Scott, having said that, there is an average to below average quarterback that in the past, at least, you have learned that the Bucs were legitimately interested in.
Yes. And actually, you can read it right here. I'm going to have it in my SR's Fab 5, but in A Season in the Sun by Lars Anderson, the latest Bruce Arians book, he talked about how Teddy Bridgewater was actually the guy they were going to target if they couldn't get Tom Brady. And the reason why is because he went 5-0 as a starter in New Orleans, and if you remember, beat the Buccaneers and actually played pretty well in doing so. 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and going 5-0, replacing Drew Brees, right? And Bruce Arians likes accurate quarterbacks, 67.9% completion percentage in New Orleans. The problem is, of course, he went on to Carolina where the Bucs beat him twice and soundly. And then the bloom kind of came off the rose a little bit, John, right? Panthers I think they won 4 games with him at the helm, even though he completed 69.1% of his passes, 15 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, right? And then he goes to Denver last year, and it was 7-7 as a starter, 18 touchdowns, 7 picks. So would Bridgewater be a guy that would come here? I don't know that they would have the same level of enthusiasm for Bridgewater now, because he would essentially be on his 4th team in 4 years, John. That's the definition of a journeyman quarterback. If anything, I think they would almost, if they were forced into the situation where they just can't trade for any bigger names, I'm with you. I think they look at not trying to get mediocre, and by that we mean, not necessarily pulling the trigger for a Kirk Cousins, who's kind of a mediocre quarterback. That would require a lot of draft capital. Remember, Jason Light has already invested a 2nd-round draft pick in Kyle Trask. I don't think he wants to invest any more draft picks in quarterbacks. So that kind of rules out some of the quarterbacks in this year's draft class. But the thing is
in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But I think Blaine Gabbert, then, believe it or not, is that bad option you're talking about. At the quarterback position.
I'm gonna clip that part of you saying that. Well, I know that pained you.
It did a little bit. I mean, Blaine's a handsome man.
Blaine and Trask make more sense than Teddy Bridgewater to me. Now, I'm not saying be bad, try and be bad if you're the Bucs, but the reality is there's just no, you're going to pay someone more than you'd pay Blaine to win what? Exactly. I mean, realistically, what? Yes. How many more games?
You're right.
To be in the middle of the draft next year instead of it just the rest of this team has tasted victory. They are not going to lose confidence. This isn't a rebuilding team. There's not going to lose confidence by being 5-win team or an 8-win team.
Is Teddy Bridgewater coming to Tampa Bay, and is he going to have a better rapport than Blaine Gabbert, who's been throwing to these guys for 3 years, who's been in Bruce Arians' offense for 4? And I'll remind you, the first year in Bruce Arians' offense is not kind to quarterbacks in terms of interceptions. Look no further than Carson Palmer in Arizona. 24 interceptions. 24 touchdowns, 22 interceptions. Okay. Jameis Winston, 33 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. It's almost a 1-for-1 type situation, John. I have no idea how many touchdowns or interceptions Blaine Gabbert would throw. But what I do know is he would have a better chance of having at least a 2-to-1, maybe a 20-to-10 or a 30-to-15, type of ratio. Even Brady, John, when Brady came here to Tampa, and played for Bruce Arians' first year, he threw 12 interceptions. That's a lot for Tom Brady. Brady hadn't thrown more than 11 interceptions since 2011.
Right.
And this is just an offense that kind of forces quarterbacks to do that. Yeah. Now, the thing is with Brady, you're getting a 4-to-1, right? You're getting 40 touchdowns or 43 touchdowns to those 12 interceptions. That's fantastic.
Right.
But John, you mentioned the cap part of it. This team has paid Jameis Winston over $20 million in his 5th-year option, right? To throw 30 interceptions and 7 pick sixes, by the way. It paid Tom Brady $25 million in each of the last 2 years. And with a Blaine Gabbert, as not appealing as that sounds, maybe, you can get Blaine Gabbert as your starting quarterback for $5 million, folks. That's right, $5 million. That's twice what you paid Blaine last year. But what does that do to the roster, John? What can you do with another $15 to $20 million that you would be spending on starting quarterback money?
Right.
By not spending it
on another guy other than Blaine.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, if there wasn't history, like Jameis would be a fine option. The history muddies things. I don't have a clear enough vantage point into that to be able to speak strongly on it. Otherwise,
Read
I
the
would
book,
like it.
and you'll find out why Jameis Winston's not coming back to Tampa.
Yeah, exactly. The book
airing his own words.
Yeah. So I don't think it's going to happen at all.
Yeah.
But I would say that if I were a neutral team in the Bucs situation, that Jameis would be a fine option to me because again, you have a cap on your ceiling. He's not going to be as reliable or consistent as a Bridgewater, but he gives you the upside that you catch a hot streak and that kind of thing. Again, and what is Jameis? A year out of the system, he looked like a different player. He looked like a very conservative player in New Orleans. I wonder if he'd have the aggressiveness now, almost the exact opposite issue. So that's kind of what I see with the Bucs situation right now is that you do all these things. The other big part of it is if you don't make a big move, you leave the door open for Brady to potentially return. Now, here's the catch with this. Leo says the $2 super chat, Gabbard is a risk to Godwin, Jensen walking. I'm not so sure about that for Godwin. If Godwin leaves, I've talked to a lot of people about the situation. If Godwin leaves, I genuinely believe it's just about the money that's out there. Like he feels like the money is the driving force. He's able to get more of it elsewhere than what the Bucs are willing to offer for what's essentially their number 2 wide receiver, as valuable as they find that. Again, the Bucs letting Godwin walk would be catastrophic in my opinion. You cannot. It would be a sign to me that they're not like your captain, your face of your franchise came out this week, and we'll talk more about this on Thursday when we talk wideouts. He came out and said, how many things has Mike Evans said? We got to have this. And he literally went on shows this week and he said, we got to have Chris Godwin back. And Godwin came on shows and said, I love playing with Mike Evans. That's my dude. I would love to keep doing what we've been doing for the last couple of years. Like you got to lock that up, man. Like we're not talking about $20 million deal here for Chris Godwin. He's not going to break the bank or reset the market at wide receiver. It's not going to happen. So you've got to find a way to make this thing happen if you're Chris Godwin and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And there's no way the Bucs should let him out of the door. There's no chance that they should let him out because the reality is they need him for this offense to work. You need that kind of talent at those key spots, and they're going to need him to play at that level. That's the only way, in my opinion, that their offense can sustain kind of where they've been at in that kind of production, which opens up the door to the rest of the free agent conversations too. If there's a possibility that Tom Brady could come back, then how do you treat the other free agents in your room? Like, how do you treat them? If there's a possibility you could trade before the start of minicamp, before the start of the season for another top quarterback at some point. Yeah. We've seen this happen before. Guys get disgruntled. You get closer to the regular season, and then boom, there's a trade. I mean, remember the Sam Bradford thing? He wasn't a disgruntled situation, but he got traded right before the season. If that happens, the Bucs what are they going to do? How are they going to treat these free agents? It changes things. Not with Godwin and Davis so much. They want those guys back anyway, but with the fringes of the roster, with the Ryan Jensens, who's going to be 31, maybe with the JPP or Sue or even a Gronk, if he wanted to play. Like, all of those things matter for those contract situations for Tampa Bay, and it's just going to be very telling how it all unfolds in terms of the kind of roster they're going to be able to offer you. And you say, hey, Brady, come back to this. If they were to bring back everybody, which they can. Again, they can do it. Yeah. It's not a question of whether they can. It's just a question of what they want to sacrifice in future years and how much tighter they want things to be in future years. If they can win now, they obviously don't care about and I wouldn't either. You go all in. But they don't know that unless they have the quarterback. And so it makes it a little bit trickier. They're going to need to be communication behind the scenes.
I agree. And listen, I don't think it matters to Chris Godwin who the quarterback is. Jameis Winston was the quarterback in 2019. Yeah. That was Godwin's only Pro Bowl season. He had a team high 86 catches, 1,333 yards, and a career high 9 touchdowns, right, with Jameis Winston. Then Brady comes, and he gets, dinged up, only plays in 12 games, 840 yards, 7 touchdowns. Last year, missed the last 3 games, obviously 3.5 games, really, had 98 catches, 1,100 yards, and 5 touchdowns. The appeal to Chris Godwin in this offense is the fact that he really is a number 1 option. Say what you want about Mike Evans, but this offense runs through the slot receiver position, which that's him. And he's shown he can go to the Pro Bowl and put up crazy numbers, 1,000-yard seasons in this offense. The quarterback, it does matter, but he loves playing in Tampa. I think that he loves the fact the Bucs drafted him. He loves playing with Mike Evans. I don't see a reason for Chris Godwin to leave, and I think that this team will open up the checkbook to pay him. So If you go somewhere else and it's going to be a matter of an extra $1 million per year elsewhere, it better be in a state with no state income tax, because Florida has that. And a lot of times that's the difference between $1 million here or there, is you can stay in Tampa and the money's the same. Because if you go to New York or California, one of those states that have high state income taxes and high tax rates, it doesn't matter. That extra $1 million or $2 million is going to be given right back to the state in the government. So I don't see a reason for Chris Godwin to leave.
Right. And here's the weird part about this. Okay. With agents, there's going to be this, I want my guy to be the highest paid wide receiver on a team. And the reality is there's Mike Evans sitting there for the Bucs making $16.5 million average per year. Godwin, according to Brad Spielberger's last projection, which just came out for Pro Football Focus today, has bumped what he expects Godwin to ask for to potentially get on the market this year. Same amount of guaranteed money that he had before, $36.5 million, which would be a good amount of guaranteed money. But for the record, far less total guaranteed money than Evans got. Evans got $55 million. So we're not even talking about the same ballpark of total guaranteed money. Right. Could that change things? But he would be getting 4 years, $70 million, $17.5 million per year per Brad's last projection. If he hits the market, if he stays in Tampa, there's a little better chance that he'd take less, but still no guarantee that he'd take less. It could easily be a $17.5 million situation. And so we're getting off the quarterback train a little bit. Right. But if there's a hold up for the Godwin thing, it's not going to be quarterback as much as it is going to be who, because he knows that the quarterback situation can be temporary. They get anybody here if they have a good team.
Exactly.
And they all trust the front office. So, I mean, they love Arians' transparency, love Leftwich's transparency, love Light's transparency. That's a big deal. If
it was Gabbert and Trask for 1 year, Chris Godwin's not signing a 1 year deal. He's going to be here probably a 4 to 6 year deal. And then if it doesn't work out, they're going to get another quarterback in here in 2023. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, he's already been through that with Jameis Winston, going from him to Tom Brady. All I know is, Jen, you're talking about a lot of money, right? And I'm not telling Chris Godwin what to do with his future earnings, but I know what I would do if I was making that much money. I would talk to our good friends at Muni Financial.
At Muni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Dude, congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you. And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Muni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
Managing your family's wealth means more to Muni Financial than simply allocating your assets. It means legacy planning, brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts, college savings accounts, and insurance services with 40 years of experience here in the Tampa Bay area. Let Muni Financial do what they've done for me, which is help me plan ahead and stay ahead. Call Muni Financial for a free, no risk, no obligation consultation, 1-800-868-6864, or visit amuni.com. Here we are. We're in the early stages of 2022. And if you haven't come up with that financial plan, it's not too late. Call Muni Financial or visit them on the web at amuni.com.
All right, last thing we want to talk about here in this situation, I believe, is draft prospects. I really don't think that draft is on the table necessarily for the Bucs.
Agreed.
So not a lot of guys that I've kind of researched that would be in the later round, take a flyer situations. But
I got two guys.
You've got a guys. Oh, you've got two? Okay. All right, go ahead. Take it away.
Yeah. Listen, they drafted Kyle Trask in the second round for a reason. They looked at the landscape. Mike Beal does a fantastic job of setting up the draft board, John, not just for this year. Not, I mean, the draft board, like, round by round, but looking at the prospects, right? And they looked at this year's draft class and next year's draft class. And, or should I say the 2020 draft class and the 2021 draft class. And they said, Kyle Trask probably going to be the better option. And matter of fact, this team, right or wrong, and time will tell, they feel like Kyle Trask is better than any of the quarterbacks in this year's draft class. And we'll see if that's the case. But if the Buccaneers were going to draft a quarterback in this year's draft class, which I don't think they're going to, because they have a second rounder and a guy that they don't know enough about yet. So why would they want to dump another draft pick in there? But if they had to draft a quarterback, Carson Strong out of Nevada would be the guy, because he is a vertical based pocket passer. He is, he's a guy that's grown on me a little bit. I watched him against Kansas State, got intrigued. Did not really have a great Senior Bowl. Didn't really shine there in the practices. John, you were there. He didn't really stand out to you. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that the conclusion?
No, I just worry about the accuracy. I think it's a big deal, and I think Arians thinks it's a big deal. So it would be hard to trust him. He's all over the place. Even his deep ball, people say, I don't know if it's his last name. He has a big, strong arm and everything. I don't really know. Like, he doesn't drive the ball any better than some of the other guys that were there. And his deep ball's really weird. I mean, he could throw it far, but everybody could do that. And it hangs up in the air forever.
They do look like
the highest throws I've seen.
Yes.
Like, it's just a complete rainbow.
And
so
John,
that gives safeties extra time to come over. Sometimes that concerns me too.
You're right. He's 6'3.5", 226. So that's kind of why I say he's, out of the guys in this year's draft class,
the knees are going to be red flagged by teams from everything I've heard. It's going to be a real concern. I don't know how bad or if teams take him off the board, but the medicals are going to be a question here.
He completed 68.1% of his passes with 74 touchdowns and 19 at Nevada, but a lot of those are screen passes, high percentage things. He's known as a deep ball guy. Romeo Doubs and Colt Turner, the tight end, that was a nice 1-2 punch at Nevada, but he would be a long shot. And I think he's probably a mid-round pick. So I just don't see them doing that. There is a guy, though, that I think would be a very interesting fit as a late-round flyer. That's Cole Kelly out of southeastern Louisiana. This is a big dude. He's 6'7", 260 pounds.
Oh and my gosh.
He is a pocket passer. I mean, John.
Holy moly. Look at this big boy.
When you see this guy's tape, he started off at Arkansas and then transferred to southeast Louisiana. And you know what? He reminds me a little bit of Ben Roethlisberger and the way that he just pushes the ball. He's got a really strong arm. And he works the middle of the field, right? He really works the intermediate and deep middle of the field. 85 touchdowns, 25 interceptions in his college career. In his junior season, completed 68.9% of his passes for 2,600 yards, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Last year, 5,124 yards. They let him sling it all over the yard, John. 73.6% completion percentage, 44 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions. He ran for 491 yards last year and 16 touchdowns. He's got 38 career touchdowns running the ball. But the thing is a lot of those are goal line scores. That's fine. You see Bruce Arians likes the quarterback sneak. So I wouldn't mind seeing this guy who was actually the NFLPA Bowl MVP. I think he completed 13 of 15 passes and 2 touchdowns for 150 yards. Wouldn't mind seeing the Bucs take a late round flyer in this guy just to give Kyle Trask another guy to contend with. Don't really anoint Trask yet. Throw this guy in the mix. Maybe he is nothing but a developmental quarterback, but he's got the physical size, the arm strength, the accuracy that I think he would be an intriguing fit in Bruce Arians' offense. We'll see.
Yeah, well, it's interesting stuff. We'll see what happens. Obviously, these would be like developmental, throw a dart at a dartboard type of picks at quarterback, and we'll see. Cole Kelly doesn't work out at quarterback, turn his behind into a tight end yet. Looks like that body might need some work, but you're right, Richie P. That might be
that's what happens out there at Arizona when he drafted Virginia Tech quarterback, right? Converted him into who is that? Name escapes me. And so
Logan Thomas.
Logan Thomas. Yes.
Yeah. And he's actually half decent now.
Yeah.
Anyway, takes a long time though. We'll see what happens. But Cole Kelly, interesting name to have in the hopper. So we addressed a lot of things with the quarterback situation. The reality is there's not a ton that we're going to know right now.
Yeah.
It will take time for this thing to play out. There are options out there, but how realistic all these options are right now, it doesn't look like that realistic for 2022. Let me just say this. 2023. I've been watching a little bit of Bryce Young, and I don't know if Bruce Arians is like all about what Bryce Young brings to the table. We got a long time to talk about that. My goodness, that guy can throw the football. Accurate, aggressive, can move a little bit.
Yep.
I know he's not that big, but I'm very intrigued by seeing Bryce Young.
CJ Stroud.
Stroud, yes. There's some your boy Phil Jerkovich. We'll see.
I love the jerk.
Yeah, so we'll see. There's a lot of names. We'll see what happens next year's class. Certainly no star.
I wouldn't put any bets on it right now, to be honest with you, though.
No, I wouldn't put any bets on it.
But the thing
would you
is,
put bets elsewhere? Oh, you would.
I would. I most certainly would. I bet the Rams in the point spread yesterday, and those sons of bitches won by 3 points, cost me my money. Thank you. Another reason for me to hate LA. But listen, this weekend, all the biggest stars of the NBA are going to be in Cleveland for the NBA All-Star Game, and MyBookie can get you in on all the action. Use the promo code PEWTER. MyBookie is going to instantly double your first deposit. You can bet like an all-star. With MyBookie, there's no shortage of events to wager on, including the 3-point slam dunk contest and, of course, the NBA All-Star Game itself. The game is going to feature the best players in the NBA has to offer, John. I know you're a big NBA fan. The only way to get in on all the action is to go to MyBookie so you can bet big on the NBA All-Star Game and go ahead and get that double deposit bonus. Head over to mybookie.ag today and get your first deposit doubled with the promo code PEWTER. And get in the game with the NBA All-Star Game next weekend. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, tomorrow we're going to be back doing this same thing, only talking about running backs. You're going to be on the pod. I think Casey's going to be on here, who's watched a lot of the running backs, especially those in the Senior Bowl, which are a lot of the top options potentially. Right. We're going to, and then, of course, talk about what's going to happen. Leonard Fournette, Giovanni Bernard, Ronald Jones, all those options. We're going to talk about all that tomorrow on the podcast. Then Wednesday, you and I will be back. We'll talk offensive line. There's new contract projections out there for Ryan Jensen. We're going to discuss those and what that means. Alex Kappa's situation.
And Alex Kappa. That's or 2/5 of their offensive line.
Wednesday is going to be an important show. Make sure you tune into that if you can. And then Thursday is going to be, I think, Matt, Casey, maybe Casey too, and myself talking about wide receivers and tight ends. We're going to really talk a lot about the wide receiver 3 spot for the Bucs. We'll talk about Godwin a little bit too and answer any questions that are out there. But we're going to talk a lot about the wide receiver 3 spot. So yes, good point by Richie. Make sure you give a thumbs up on the show if you could. Hit the like button for us. That really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm, gets us out there in front of more people, continue to grow the channel. We made great strides in the season. We're coming back into the meat of the offseason here with the combine coming up, which we're also going to be at. We're excited about that. And so make sure you subscribe to the Pewter Report YouTube channel. Hit the like button on our videos. Helps us out a ton. We greatly appreciate it. Tomorrow, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Be back on the show then. We appreciate you all. Thanks so much for listening to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.